Every second, the U.S. economy is being reshaped by invisible forces, most of them digital. While physical dollars are still printed in a high-security facility in Washington, D.C., producing hundreds of millions of paper bills daily, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The real engine of the modern financial system hums quietly in the background, through computer screens and keystrokes, where over $4 billion is created digitally every single day. This isn't a conspiracy or a secret. It's the bedrock of the modern economic system, and it begins with debt, trust, and a few lines of code. Today's dollars, whether stored in your banking app or transferred across borders, rarely originate as physical notes. According to the Federal Reserve, over 90% of the U.S. money supply exists in digital form. This electronic money is born not through labor or gold-backed assets, but through lending. When a bank issues a loan, it doesn't hand out pre-existing money. It creates new money out of thin air by entering numbers into a digital ledger. This process, known as fractional reserve banking, enables commercial banks to expand the money supply, often far beyond their actual reserves. To understand how we arrived here, we must retrace the history of trade before currency existed. Long before coins and notes, societies operated on the trust-based system of barter and deferred payments. A farmer might owe a blacksmith for a tool, with the understanding that payment, perhaps in crops, would come later. As anthropologist David Graeber explains in Debt, the first 5,000 years, the earliest forms of money were not coins, but credit systems based on social relationships and trust. Over time, commodities like salt, grain, and cattle became standardized mediums of exchange due to their utility and scarcity. Eventually, metallic currencies, particularly gold and silver, replaced bulky barter goods. These coins enabled global trade, linking continents through the movement of universally accepted value. However, the weight and risk of transporting precious metals led to a key financial innovation in 17th century England: paper promissory notes. Goldsmiths began issuing receipts for stored gold, which soon gained acceptance as currency. These paper notes, though backed by gold, were soon issued in greater numbers than the gold reserves themselves. As historian Neil Ferguson notes in The Ascent of Money, this marked the birth of modern banking, and the concept that money could be created through credit. Fast forward to the present. Banks, rather than goldsmiths, now drive this system. When you deposit money in a bank, it's not physically stored in a vault with your name on it. Instead, the bank owes you that amount. It's a liability. Conversely, when the bank lends you money, it's creating an asset by generating new money, which didn't previously exist. This two-way debt system expands the economy, increases liquidity, and drives consumption and innovation. But it also comes with risks, particularly when loans outpace actual productivity. The process is further complicated by the role of central banks like the Federal Reserve to stimulate economic growth or stabilize markets. The Fed uses tools such as open market operations, buying government bonds to inject cash into the banking system. The government, in turn, issues more bonds to cover budget deficits. According to the U.S. Treasury, the national debt surpassed $34 trillion in 2025. This debt-financed spending fuels infrastructure, defense, welfare, and salaries, but also increases the long-term fiscal burden. This cycle has profound implications. As Nobel laureate economist Paul Krugman has explained, while debt-financed spending can stimulate short-term growth, over-reliance on it without matching productivity leads to inflation. If too much money chases too few goods, prices inevitably rise. That's precisely why central banks use interest rate adjustments and reserve requirements to maintain economic balance. Yet, these tools are not always foolproof. In 2022 and 2023, inflation in the U.S. surged to over 9%, the highest in 4 decades, largely due to pandemic stimulus, supply chain disruptions, and excessive money creation. Another hidden layer in this digital economy is the commodification of personal data. Your digital footprint, your clicks, purchases, and location can be bought and sold by data brokers, often without your knowledge. Companies like Delete Me have emerged to counter this, offering to remove personal data from databases to protect users from scams, identity theft, and privacy invasions. This monetization of personal information has turned individuals into economic products, contributing billions to the digital advertising industry annually, according to Pew Research and the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Despite its flaws, the modern financial system is not inherently corrupt or doomed. It's simply a tool, one that magnifies both gains and losses depending on how it's used. If money creation were more tightly aligned with long-term investments in education, technology, and infrastructure, society could benefit from greater returns. Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz argues that strategic public investment is essential for equitable growth, especially in an age where private banks often prioritize speculative gains over productive lending.